Piece of paper? Yeah.
That's all that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they turn us into merchants with the birth certificate, so that they can take advantage of this whole situation, like I explained with the charge card, we can also write these. Because now, if you're going to treat us like merchants, how do you like me now? Because I'm putting 300 million in there, and your bonds only go up to 100,000. We've got a discrepancy. Who's paying the difference? Not me, says the judge. You see what happens?
Money.
Follow money.
It sucks.
I'm not quite following that.
If you're insured as a judge for say $100,000, and somebody else comes in and insures the same case or a case that you're on for 300 million, and then you do something like the lady, I don't know what she went, like the lady, the government is pounding on us. So if the judge goes along with that whole agenda, oh, well, I got hurt by this. U.S. Treasury, can you pay me 300 million? Okay, yeah, here's
The person
the,
on trial got harmed in some way and blamed the judge. And so the judge couldn't pay because he was only bonded to 100,000. But
Yeah.
somebody else had bonded the same case with a $300 million promissory note.
bond, yeah.
But don't they assign judges as to how much the insurance companies will bond the judge for?
Yeah, I know, but nobody's bonding any judges for 300 million. That's the problem. So Wally Ogle was on TV. I'm watching TV and everybody's like, it goes right by them. We have to up the bonds on our hardworking judges. I'm like, yeah, I know why.
The question is, where did the $300 million bond,
Yeah,
why did that get called into play? Because somebody was harmed and they had to be paid?
it's not that somebody got paid. It's somebody could get paid. So if I'm the judge and I'm going, well, if I follow what I'm told to do in this case, and that guy understands what's going on, and he extinguishes his bond at the U.S. Treasury, who collects for the U.S. Treasury?
What do you mean extinguishes?
IRS, yeah. Nah, I'm not feeling good about this.
What do you mean extinguishes the bond from what?
If I got harmed by it. My bond is at the U.S. Treasury. So I go to the U.S. Treasury because that's where my insurance is. It has nothing to do with the people in BC.
Oh, yes.
So I go down there, yeah, this judge in BC that I wrote the case on the bond, it's on the bond, case number. So, yeah, I got harmed. I need 200 million out of that. Here you go, sir. Okay, well, let's go and recoup this because we got it out in the market now, in all kinds of mutual funds and everything else. So we want to get that money back. Let's go see what the bond is on the judge. Oh, we got $100,000. Little short. Oh, they're going to have to go after his assets. Oh, IRS, can they get into somebody's bank account and just empty it?
So, but in order for them to collect, you have to be harmed, is that not correct?
Correct. So that's
They're
why
just they're not willing to take the risk.
that's why the judge is, you can have my courtroom and sit with this guy.
That's why they did earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, shut down my courtroom. Everybody out, sheriff's down here, they can have my courtroom as long as they want. Because that guy right there in the corner has bonded this case. And I want to make sure that I am on the good side of that guy.
So anybody can bond their own case.
Yeah.
And you have 59
So
day
if I'm
credit,
going,
right?
if I'm going to court on something, how do I bond my case?
You're in commerce, you're supposed to bond your case. Here's the thing, because we're ignorant, we have this thing called birth certificate, and you're already bonding the case, you just don't know it, and they just pull stuff out of there every time you put your foot down, sitting down, no, there's a charge for that. So that's why I didn't sign anything in the jail, because they're pulling off my birth certificate. They have to have my signature on these negotiable instruments in order to get that money out of it. I didn't sign anything. They couldn't prove I was there. I was there for 60 days.
And you had a 59 day credit,
I
right?
had a 59-day credit. because they had to give me my time back. So when the sheriff would come, you know, you got to sign to get in the sheriff truck. I'm not signing that. What? You have to sign it. How are you going to take my hand and make me make my signature? You can't do it, and I'm not signing it. Well, then you can't get in the truck. Okay, put me back myself. I didn't want to come to court anyway. The reason why I'm being held is that I don't come to court. And he's like, oh, well, that's not going to work. That's right. Get in the truck. Okay.
So how much money's on our birth certificate then?
I haven't seen mine, but we had a lady in Illinois. She was in her 80s, and hers was $9 billion. I saw the QSIP.
How can you find out?
It's in the stock market. Yeah, when we were first started this, we couldn't get the QSIP things, but now it seems to be open. Almost any stockbroker can get it, based on your name or your birth date, and or a case number. The case number ends up on your QSIP every time.
So if you're from a different country, you'd have to go to that country right now.
No, I think you can. I think everything is running through the United States, because the United States has the benchmark currency. They're trying to change that. I mean, that's what all the fighting's about. So our bills of exchange, just so you know, are in American dollars. Reason for that is it falls into U.S. jurisdiction, and I just explained how that's to your advantage. And it's also the Empower and the Revelation 18 Church is protected by the U.S. Constitution. So it's a private membership association on steroids.
And
They
the
can't.
US is the reserve currency
Yes,
of the world,
correct.
that's why.
Yes.
Are your bills of exchange backed by anything?
No.
Good faith with the government.
They have validity because we get you through a contract, a tacit agreement contract, and a contract nonetheless. So they're not just out of the blue. So they've agreed in advance to a daily fee, and then you just start billing them. And we can do perpetual billing because of our application that we built. It took years, but so we can literally bill until we bill all the money out of the current system.
So who gave them the permission to take the money off our birth certificate if we wasn't of legal age to sign it?
Your parents pledged you,
With the birth certificate.
or us.
But we didn't consent, our parents did.
Our parents pledged you, so you became like a ward of the state or a lost at sea, if you want to look at it that way, because it's different jurisdictions. So, but you became an orphan, so you became a ward of the state.
They signed your certificate of registration.
Yeah, and if you understand registering, if you register your children, if you register your car, if you register your house, if you register anything, the root Latin word is regi. Go home and look it up, and you'll be just like,
How are you spelling that?
REGI.
I just had two questions about the birth certificate. Did you get a response from the treasury after you sent the birth certificate in?
No, we didn't, but it's tacit.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, after I wrote a few, I bonded the Clean Energy Act around 2012-ish, and I got a return receipt from them saying, you know, that they got it, because they wouldn't even return the mail, like the mail receipt. So I mailed it to Washington, D.C., and I got a mail return from Ogden, Utah, where the treasury is. And it had treasury and ICD on it, or OCD, can't remember.
My second question is it an entitlement order that you attached to the birth certificate?
What do you mean by entitlement order?
Like return for value?
Yeah, there's stuff you write on there, yes. On the birth certificate when you send it in, yes. So you give instructions, and you send a opening bond to basically open an account. That's the best way to describe it. And you're telling them that you will be writing notes against this security, which is your birth certificate, from time to time, and they agree.
Is this information on your website?
No. I don't teach this because people start to think, oh, Corvette. that's the problem.
And what is the?
If you try and get stuff or try and get cash, you are on you're near the cliff's edge, and people end up in jail for this stuff. So there's a thing called consumer purchase. You can look up consumer purchases in the Bills of Exchange Act. It's a very short little section, but I'll tell you, you need to really understand that. So if you're doing anything on a consumer purchase, like in that way, like with this kind of methods, you cannot in any way, directly or indirectly, get any kind of fiat money from it. In other words, you cannot drive that car to work.
What about paying off a mortgage?
Same thing, there's people who paid off the mortgage. If you want to know about mortgages, read the affidavit of Walker Todd. And it's an American thing, but it'll give you the whole overview of how the mortgage scam works. And it was a case that was won. Now, again, the courts and they try and maneuver and, so you got to study this stuff so that when you're in there, they don't talk you down. Like, you've got to hold your ground, and they'll sense it. Judges are really good at sensing that you don't know. So you've got to know it and be able to stand there. I've had judges look at the bonds and, there's no validity in this, but I can hear the paper rattling because they're so scared. Right? Nice try. But if you didn't know that, or, they can be quite aggressive, and judges know how to actually yell at you. And when you're yelled at, there's an automatic body reaction.
Submission.
Yeah, it's like they come and they make a body move like this, and very aggressive, very loud. And the spit thing seems to be a thing, actually. Seriously, I just saw that a lot. So they're probably doing it on purpose. That's the first time I've ever said that, but it seems to be that. So, and if you don't have the proper demeanor and answer for that yelling, they know, oh yeah, I got him. He's not, doesn't have what it takes. Actually, the guy in the back there.
So when Kyle got that piece of paper for the litmus stuff, was it a bill of exchange or is it a promissory note?
My fine.
Was it?
That's a bill of exchange. Yeah, ticket is a bill of exchange.
So when he burned it, did it end the contract?
No, because he had the copy. The original went with the police officer.
So what happens to the agreement?
There's no agreement. The money was created, and they got away with it. They just didn't get him to pay it the second time. That's all. And they were like, wow. See, if you're like Kyle, we got paid, but we want to try and get paid twice and have this guy show up in court. Nah, let's just let it go.
Doesn't he have to sign it though?
But I didn't. I had a summons to appear. A cop showed up to my door. I went live, put it on live. He asked me for my ID. I says, come on, you saw the video, you know it's, nobody's good looking this good looking twice. That's honestly what I said. And then he's kept talking, and like you said, they know how to play, they know, and then he just reached for it. He's like, oh, okay, just sign this and I'll get out of here. Kyle's like, oh, you're so cute. Didn't sign it, of course, but then when we went to court, Marcy did all my affidavits because at the time you had to wear masks. She did all the affidavits. So now I was going to be able to go in mask-free and make an ass out of these people, as well as put in whatever evidence I thought that I could have put in for this. But when we showed up to court, they actually just looked at me and said, oh, don't worry, we just threw it out. 4 months later, they wrote an $1,100 ticket, came to my door, said, oh, okay, hold on, we're going live. He opened the door, threw it in, said, I'm not putting up with this shit, Cardinal, and ran up my driveway. So then I burnt that ticket. So did I acknowledge it existed? Did I?
No, that was still would have been a copy, and it probably had a signature on it. The police can actually sign the ticket.
They can.
When I said it has to have name A owes name B, X amount of dollars, date, signature, it doesn't matter whose signature is on there. Yeah, that's how bad this is.
So could you write on a, because that's a third-party contract, right? There's 3 parties involved, like on a ticket. Could you write, I do not consent to contract on the ticket?
You could write, I accept it for valid. You can do, there's a bunch of things you can do.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do non-negotiable, and when you sign it, and then they, can't negotiate, it's not a negotiable instrument. Sucks to be you, take your piece of paper and I guess you can wipe your bum with it once and that's about it. So, yeah, there's a bunch of things you can do once you understand what's going on. And then once they know that you know, like him, I've never been summoned to court for anything. And my joke is I'd have to be walking naked, dragging a dead body, shooting an automatic weapon in the air before they kind of approach me. Could you just tone it down a little bit?
Teeny.
Yeah, teeny. It's like, just ease up. I'm kidding, of course, but yeah, it's like that. They don't want to deal with people like Kyle or people like me. I don't get summons there anymore. I don't get charged with failing to file.
Oh, so you don't even file?
Yeah. And they won't charge me because they know what's going to come out of my mouth as soon as they get me in there.
And you drive, and you've got a car.
I don't have a car, but I drive, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have a license.
It's all travel in your private.
I don't even care about that. You know, because I went through all this stuff. I went through documents, signing in black, red, blue, green, thumbprints in red, thumbprints with blood, saliva on it, no borders, no punctuation, no periods, no capitals, legal size paper, not stapling, using glue, not using glue. I did all that stuff, all of it. I tried everything in those early days. I tried everything. And it came down to certain things made a difference, and the rest of it just doesn't make a difference. Like crossing the bar, I'll cross the bar. Yeah. So what? And sometimes I won't cross the bar if they're trying to get me in a contract, but I can recognize the difference. But I'm not afraid to cross the bar. It's like getting on the pirate ship. Yeah, I'll get on your pirate ship. It's not a problem, because I can drag you back on land. Bills of exchange come from the land, and I got your name. So every time you dock, we'll seize your ship. So it's like that. Once you have certain knowledge, and some of that stuff doesn't matter anymore. So.
Is there any value in or strength in not registering your children and not getting them a birth certificate?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, they would be free from all encumbrances, but in the long run, they wouldn't have the advantage of, of some of the things that I did because I had a birth certificate. So it's a two-way street. I would say yes, don't, like generally, because to get up to speed on how to use your birth certificate, I went through the hard way, but now I don't care about that. That's the only ID I have from Canada is my birth certificate, because I know it's not mine. But as a child is growing up, and if you don't understand as a parent what that is and how to use it, then you're best off not to have it, because there is some things that they foist on you because of it, for sure.
And do you have documents that help you when you're being pressured to register your children?
No, we have to stick to the 4 agendas, and then when I'm doing law merchant teachings, it's general principles. So we don't get into practicalities. There are other websites that get into practicalities, how to exit the system and those types of things. But I'll talk about it, but it's not something we provide or teach or have templates on.
Thank you.
Just with the registering your child, wouldn't you just add as a mother and father, give them notice that it's your will for you to maintain your child as your property, etc.?
Well, it's more like they are your property by default, because they're there was a delivery and a, pregnancy and all that. So they are claiming something because you have registered it and put it like abandoned it, put it that way.
But couldn't you just attach something to that document stating that you're gonna be keeping the child as your property?
You could,
And as an executor and beneficiary of the trust?
you could. You can do anything in contract if you understand it. It's all, everything is, acceptance, conditional acceptance, renegotiating. You gotta get them to agree to it in some way. And you can do it through tacit agreement, but don't just leave it open. A lot of people do these things and then they leave it open and there's no, you have to have a date, like you got to close the deal, make sure they have to answer to say you can't do that within 14 days, and if they don't, then you'll agree. You have to do that kind of thing. Yeah.
A lot of things that we have been learning, or I've been learning over the past 3 years, and that becoming awake to what's going on. I know a lot of the things, but don't really understand how to apply what I've learned. And with some things like the chemtrails, all from along, wanting all that to stop, the soji wanting that to stop, just everything that's going on, and then nobody knows where to go, who to talk to, what do? We all know what's going on.
Well, that's why we have the 4 agendas, because these 4 particular agendas, smart meter, I'll say them again, smart meters, 5G, spraying in the air, and vaccinations are happening everywhere in Earth. Everywhere, identically the same. So that's our attack points, for lack of a better word, because it's happening everywhere consistently. So that's what we're doing in order to tear down this system.
So by joining I want to join your club.
Your gang.
Membership, yeah.
We have a smart meter, but we have it, so we're paying for it to be off, the meter off. Yeah, but we would rather it not be there at all. We resisted as long as we could, and then,
Have you heard of the legacy program?
that's legacy meters.
You know, yeah, the legacy program, they charge you a bit more, but they will put an older meter back on, and it's called the legacy program. Contact Hydro and they will do that.
Okay, yeah, okay. I've heard other things, like someone in England that called up their hydro and got their own meter put in, because that's the only reason why BC Hydro comes on your property.
They will do that, they will come and they will charge you for them counting, but we found with a few of the people that they weren't charging, they were just charging you with the normal thing, but they come by and they literally have to read your meter, which is called the legacy program, and Hydro is aware of it. I mean, we did it, and it worked.
Yeah, we held out as long as we could.
Yeah, called the legacy program.
Yeah, with the stress and stuff like that.
Yep.
You know anything about the Crown grant system that created the parcels of land in Canada?
The problem with Canada, like I said, the original agreement here with the European type people was the Hudson Bay Company. And when they formed the Dominion, besides the Rupert's Land, which is the Hudson Bay Company, there was 4 provinces here: Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Upper and Lower Canada, it was. And but everything else was Rupert's Land.
Yeah.
So when they formed the Dominion, one of the reasons that Victoria formed the Dominion was to get that charter back, because that's the money. So it really was the whole Canada thing was a ruse. So here, everything that's outside of that charter, that's a perpetual succession document, is technically not European land, put it that way. So in particular, anywhere west of the Rockies, they weren't supposed to be out here. So any of these squatting on land or trying to claim land, you're messing with something you don't understand, and they don't want to tell you what the problem is, so you'll just get arrested with a lot of squatting type things. They won't tell you why, because you think you're on Crown land, but you're not. They don't have it. They never did.
But when the king signed the crown grants, the land grants, and he gave it to the settlers, then what was he creating? What is that?
Here's the thing, you gotta understand how big Rupert's land was. That's a grant, you can read that document. So, if they had all that land, what lands were they granting? And there was a grant, he's passed away now, but, an old friend of mine, Chief Capilano, which is, Capilano River, Capilano Mall, his ancestors got deeds from a king for all of Vancouver, all the way up to Whistler and down into Oregon, like a huge chunk of land, because the United States wasn't there then. And that's all signed by a king too, but what's the problem with Canada is we got these conflicting documents. It's all a fraud, but it's all from 200, 300 years ago, and like, how do you fix this? And they just keep trying to pretend like it's not, like, oh, everything's okay.
They ignore it, like, with Rupert signing, did you hear the rights of Chief J.D. Anderson that claimed that the papers were given to him via the Queen years ago?
I haven't heard that. I mean, the charter?
Yeah, for Rupert's land.
I haven't heard that. But the Hudson Bay Charter, the actual original is at the Hudson Bay Company Museum, I think it's in Winnipeg. But who owns it, I would guess it's now Charles, and that was Elizabeth before. So when the old Trudeau tried to fix this problem, so you gotta understand, she created Canada in 1867, the Dominion, and then in 1893 removed the enacting clause of the British North America Act. Yeah, Queen Victoria. And that repealed the act. We've been operating without that British North America Act. And here's why Wally Oval wouldn't answer. Because the courts get the authority from the British North America Act. The legislatures are created by the British North America Act. Parliament is created by the British North America Act. If there's no British North America Act, there is no parliament, there is no legislature. And I've said this up and down the ladder, all the way up to the Queen, and you know how many responses I've had? All I've seen is running, hiding,
And
quitting.
no refuting.
Nobody rebuts. And I'll tell you this, I had a judge, he's a judge that beat Mr. Lindsay, some of you may know. And I didn't know it at the time, but they brought this guy in and they called me up early. And before I'm even going through the bar, he's saying, why should I give you an adjournment today? I'm standing at the bar, I'm like, whoa, what is that? I'm trying to figure out what kind of witchcraft he's playing on me, so I hadn't said anything. So I'm like, okay, what's the trick? I haven't seen this one before. So I went, could you repeat that, please? And he yells, why should I give you an adjournment today? And I'm like, and then he starts saying, you people, you read a few acts and you think you know something. And I'm like, what you people? And then he started going on and on about British North America. And he had all these sections memorized. And he went on and on and on. And so I thought, I can't keep up with this guy. He's way smarter than I am, and he's moving way too fast. I can't keep track of all this. I'm still standing at the bar. And I'm like trying to keep up with him, and he's moving really fast, and he's very Shakespearean and just showing how smart he was. And he was smart, but he was really over dramatizing it. So we were surmising that the British North America Act was repealed by Victoria, but I had never done it in court before. So I thought, well, I'm just going to blurt it out and see what happens. So I calmed down, basically stopped listening to him. And I thought, well, I'll just wait till he stops, and that's all I got. So I relaxed, and he just kept going on, and I went, well, this is going to be good. And then he kept going on and on and on, almost all British North America. And I went, well, this is going to be really good. And then he stopped talking, and I said, Queen Victoria unenacted, that's the word I used, the British North America Act in 1893. Now he's just done a 5-minute monologue with, and here's what he said. Yeah, he didn't say anything. This is a guy who knows the British North America Act better than anybody else, at least in British Columbia. They brought him in to beat all the gurus. They brought him in that day, and I trumped him with one silly blurt out. He had no rebuttal. He didn't even bring up 1982 and the whole charter and all that. And believe me, he knew about that. So, but he just got slapped in the face, and he didn't know what else I knew, so he didn't even want to bring up 1982. He said nothing.
Case closed.
I broke this to the Queen. Here's what I got.
So, if the Queen Victoria passed, when she passed away, then she didn't sign any will for her ancestors?
The charter, if you read the Rupert's Land Act, which is 1868, the very next year, first order of business after we get the Dominion, let's talk about that Hudson Bay Charter. 1867, 1868, Rupert's Land Act. How are you going to pass the charter back to me? Surrender. They had to surrender. So in the surrender, it has to be these words: surrendering to Her Majesty, her successors, and heirs.
We didn't have that. This means all province, each province in Canada is supposed to be sovereign country.
That's right. So in 1932, they passed this thing called the Statute of Westminster, where you guys can have your country if you want. And we went to this day. Trudeau comes along in 82, goes, we got a constitutional problem. What he didn't say is, we don't have a constitution. And we've been operating for over 100 years. We should probably fix this. Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, the BNA Act is gone, and she removed Section 2 as well in her cleverness. So no other, not even another queen can revive this act. Let's change the name of it. We'll keep the same words in it, and maybe nobody will notice. Constitution Act, 1982. Word for word, British North America. Okay, that's how you can do it. So now how are you going to pass this legally? Because the document you just are trying to pass creates Parliament. In other words, there's not a Parliament to pass this act. Because the act has to be passed first in order to create a Parliament. So you can't just bootstrap this thing in there. What are we going to do? Well, we'll have the Queen come over and do a proclamation. Randy Levesque. No effing way, man. No. Matter of fact, we're getting out. Oh, no. Stay.
Finally explains that.
So the Queen agrees to this. She says, you can have your country. Read the proclamation. It's about that long. It shall come into force in effect on this day, April the 2nd, 1982, comma, subject to section 59 thereof, comma, and so would be it, blah, 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 blah. So section 59, it sends you to section 24, which is Quebec must sign off on an English issue. Okay, well, we'll put it through, and we'll try and get Quebec on board. Leech Lake Accord, anybody heard of that? Yep. Did you know what it was about? No, it was about Quebec signing. Charlottetown Accord, does anybody know what that was about? getting Quebec to sign on. Did Quebec sign on? No. So, we don't have the Constitution Act.
And that's what we're paying.
Exactly, that's why we keep paying them here in the West.
And that's why Trudeau could pass the War Measures Act. And everybody's going, yeah, it's against the charter. He's going like, yeah, what charter? My dad was there. It's not passed yet. And everybody's it's going on and on and on and on. So we put it in our document. If you're operating under the Hudson Bay Charter, paraphrasing, you can't have laws repugnant to the common law. So we still get you on the War Measures Act. But we're getting it in the correct way, not going charter that doesn't exist. And that's when Freeland's like, I think I'm going to go to NATO. I'm having marital problems.
Question for you on, when you say the Hudson's Bay Act was in 1868, or Rupert's Act?
Rupert's Land Act, 1868.
Okay. And then, I read it somewhere, I can't remember where, the Queen signing over all authority, like you said, to the people of the land in Canada, right? Was it not?
Well, people paid. They paid what Victoria wanted was the document, because that's the ownership of everything that's coming out of here. So you get a cut of everything. So
And you can do all those bills of exchange.
yeah, exactly. You can do all this kind of stuff. So the land was paid for by the people. So we've got the land back, but
Okay, but then her cabinet, or the lawyers, or whatever, the parliament over in Britain, went about and dissolved whatever she had put in place, is what I read.
No.
And then on her death, it was supposed to be reenacted, and none of her relatives thereafter were able to change it.
Yeah, that's section 2 of the Great British North America Act. That's what you're talking about. Yeah, so no, there was no provision. Section 2 said the provisions pertaining to Her Majesty Victoria would pass to her successors and heirs. She removed that. So in other words, no other descendant of hers could ever fix that document, because she even removed that. So, and the enacting clause. And the enacting clause, if you understand it, it's the words that says, by my authority in front of the Lords temporal and spiritual and commons, blah, 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 hereby enact the following. It's those words that give any act of authority, and all acts have to happen. Well, she removed those words out of our founding document. So it reverted back to the Hudson Bay Charter, because that's a perpetual document. So there was going to be, there was actually for a couple of years, the Dominion of Canada and Rupert's Land. There was two different things. There was separate courts. The courts of the Hudson Bay Company continued, and then they had Dominion courts. It was two separate things, and then they surrendered the document. As soon as she got that, well, not soon, 26 years later, she removed the Dominion. Now everything's back to Hudson Bay Company, but nobody knows it.
And the majority of Canada at that time was Rupert's Land.
That's correct. So that's the trick. When it was the full-on Hudson Bay Company, everybody knew it was a company, and they would actually shoot at them. And so they stopped shooting because we all think it's a country, and we vote every 4 years.
Are you suggesting we continue shooting? No, just don't answer
No.
that. Don't answer that.
No, we don't have to shoot because we can deal with them in commerce. If it's the Hudson Bay Company and they use bills of exchange or promissory notes back then, you can look these things up online. Look up Hudson Bay Company promissory note, and you'll see a picture of one. And then look at it, read it. It's written in cursive, and it's hard to read some of them. But what it says is, like, 1 pound sterling silver. It's a promissory note. And if you want to redeem this note, you have to take it to the York factory. So if you're out where Alberta is, and this is, you know, in the 1700s, you're on horseback or you're walking. There's no trains, there's no planes. You have to walk to where Ontario is. Then at that fort, they would give you a bill of exchange. You had to take that bill of exchange to London, England. And then once you presented it at the Hudson Bay House in London, England, they had 2 months to come up with the actual silver. How many of these things do you think people actually got the silver?
0.
Very few. Because who's going to get on a boat all the way to London and wait there 2 months? You got to put yourself up. So unless you had a bunch of these things, it wasn't worth your time to go there. So they're putting out these notes and everybody's passing them around like these. Here's $20. Here's a pound of silver, 15 shillings, 5 shillings, and they're all passing it around. And yet the Hudson Bay Company is taking the beaver pelts to London, making hats out of them, and people are paying in silver there. How rich do you think you're going to get when you're just writing on a piece of paper, I owe you a pound of silver. Come and get it. But you got to go to Ontario first, then London, England. That's the system. Yeah, that's the system.
It's pretty clever. You gotta hand it to me. Come on.
We all fell for it. So I'm trying to teach you this. I'm not saying I agree with it or it's righteous or anything like that. But we can play that game because they turned us all into merchants with our birth certificate. So they can't say we can't. They've been getting these charge cards. That's why I want to give you the charge X story. You've been doing it the whole time. They've been getting the money from you, or the value. Yeah.
I wasn't here earlier, but in terms of personage, right? In terms of the contracting venues, you were saying that the acts are not really legitimate at all because we as a woman and man have higher jurisdiction. So the acts themselves are theater, right? And when you read the Acts, like the Interpretation Act, it speaks about personage. Well, how do you feel about the 1611 being their contracting venue? And in terms of that is legitimacy of how Canada was formed with everything else that we were talking about that's null and void in terms of acts. What do you feel about how that plays a role in terms of, because I just heard you talk about the righteousness of it. How do you feel that plays in terms of, my understanding is we're not out to seek argument with anybody, we're out to seek agreement.
That's right.
So for instance, the barricade that was in Sorrento, it wasn't about argument, it was about seeking agreement, and it was about holding them accountable to their codes, which are criminal codes. I don't want any part of that because I am a free woman on the land. I don't use that, but I'm a woman, okay, under God, and I understand and know that your contracting venue is a 1611, and the maximum in this country states such that the Bible itself holds authority over everything else.
That's
So in that, can you speak a little bit to that in terms of how people navigate the tools? They have their instruments and their tools that they operate with. I'm a big proponent of knowing what those are so that you can actually say, here, I'm not getting into contract with you, but did you know, and asking through questions, helping to alleviate, in terms of asking them questions as opposed to, like, I'm not signing that, like you said, I'm not signing that. But what about going further to say, I'm not signing that, and are you aware that with the masks, let's say the mandate, let's use that as an example, benevolently pursuing an infraction here, are you aware that under 176 of the criminal code, we have a right to benevolently pursue, and under 180, you don't have a right to nuisance us? Is that not correct? So in terms of taking out that level and then taking on the 1611, which is their contracting name, can you talk to that, the whole personage? Because that's really what you're doing. You're saying in the commerce and contract, I'm willing to come into your jurisdiction, but on my terms, and I know what those are.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is get educated, do not go and try to navigate this until you are educated, because it's a battlefield for the mind, and you have to know more than they do, if you will,
Well,
right?
you don't have to know more than they do, but at a certain point you have to do action as well, because you study till your brain
What I'm
rots.
saying, use that saying, speak to the 1611, the contract you made that
The
they
con-
actually used to.
Yeah, the contract is because the king has signed, has sworn an oath up to defend that as PD Defensor, which is Defender of the Faith.
Yeah.
So, and all of our agents here, all the government, even if you work at the liquor store, you swear an oath to the king. So by agency, you're underneath his oath. So if they break the Bible, then they're put, how I write it is, you've just put the king's oath in jeopardy. And I will be going to the king unless you start to straighten this out.
Under woman and man who is working for us under a sovereign God. So how do you, what I'm really getting at, I should just say, how do you take it from this to give people the skill set to be able to navigate this on their own? Like, if they come to my house, I know what to say. If they wanna put a barricade over a road, I know what needs to have happen. And then it's a 72-day or 72-hour, 3-day rescissions, where you now have to go ahead and show me that you are doing as you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, so
how do you, what you did.
well, that's all very complicated. So what we're doing at Empower is we're taking 4 things that are happening to everybody. Not everybody's having a blockade on their street. So we can do a lot of study on that and put out one document, and 6 people across Canada will use it. So we're doing 4 things that are happening to every person in this room, and every person across Canada, every person across the United States, every person in Japan, every person in Germany, Australia. It's worldwide. That's the approach we're taking in order to attack this whole beast. Once we take the money from them and this thing collapses, as
Which is the
Revelation.
head.
Yeah, once the thing collapses, according to Revelation 18, when we follow those instructions, then all those barricades and all the stuff will stop as well, because it's all part of the same thing.
So
But
so my next question then on that, when you actually take that document, because I haven't seen your documents, do they refer to personage and we're not getting into contract?
No, we don't use the word person, we use the word man and woman.
Yeah.
Man and woman is what appears in the Bible, and you will not find the words man or woman in any statutes.
Correct. But you will find God's not a respecter of persons, many times.
You will find that in the Bible as well, that God's not a respecter of
So I'm
persons.
just wondering if you refer to that, stand on that, and then say we're not getting into your code. So
Yeah, our document, when I was tasked to write this, I knew I would have to write for people who had serious understanding and had exited the system, and so they wouldn't go back in. And then I had to write it for somebody who is, how I put it is, a little old lady, 80-year-old lady in some backwood county in Arkansas who's never even had a speeding ticket and doesn't know anything. It has to work for her too. So the document is written with that consciously, purposely, so that we are not buying into their system.
So my next question is, how do you explain to us, in your opinion, if someone was to come to your door, okay, so we've got these documents say for 5G, but now it really gets real when they show up in your face. Tell people what you would recommend and how to navigate that. Because essentially, the paper doesn't make the man or woman makes the paper. Right? You
Yeah,
have
so,
to know what you have.
but the problem with what to do is, you have to tell me which officer showed up out of 10,000, and they're all different. So I would have to answer for that one and that one. For this one, you do that. For that one, you do that. For that one, you do that.
They all have to adhere to the criminal codes, right?
But they don't.
Okay, why?
Al Capone had to adhere to the criminal code, but he didn't. So this is the problem. So those kind of questions are there's too many variables. That's the thing. Like, you can't teach people, here's what you say when they come to your door. Because I had so many officers that I dealt with, and they're all different.
So then, would you go by Matthew 18:15-20, take your witnesses and make sure that you have your court records in order?
Oh, do everything by witness if you can. Do everything on paper if you can. It's a paper world, I can tell you that. Paper is all they look at. I've had people look at a piece of paper. I had my friend, and telling him he has brown eyes when he has green eyes. And he goes, I have green eyes. It says brown eyes right here.
Paper's king like cash is king for that
Yeah,
reason.
and
paper.
I've seen judges put piles of paper on top of what I did and go, this is all I can see. And if you don't know what they're doing, you're just like, what does that mean? That means I don't see your stuff. You have to bring it back. So there's too many tricks. You can't really teach these things. That's why we went with smart meter, 5G, vaccinations.
But I think the simplicity of it is make sure you have your witnesses, make sure you get everything documented, because in the event of, then you know that you have that information.
Yes, and journal, like if you're in something that's ongoing, journal. Yeah. Any other questions before we, okay, one more. Okay, two more.
Okay, you say you're taking the money from them, where's it going to?
The money is into the bill. So like it's all perceived value in this stuff. There is no money in.
It's created out of thin
Well,
air.
you're billing them, you're saying you're billing them.
The bill is the money, and that's I'm going to say it over and over because you'll just go, no, the bill is what you send to get the money, and that's what you've been trained. But the bill is the money in their system.
So you, holding that piece of paper, that's where the money is in
Yes.
a piece of paper.
Correct.
So then who's got the pieces of paper?
You do.
But you're saying that you've already extracted, what did you say, $1 million?
Well,
$1 billion?
what it is this is $100 because everybody agrees that it is. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's no bigger than the $10 bill. So what we're saying is, okay, you call this $100 that has some value. I get 100 loaves of bread with it. We have another piece of paper that says you owe me what's on this thing. It's now on that piece of paper. That's how it works. So I know it sounds really, I'm simplifying it. So the value, the perceived value of the fiat system is now on a different piece of paper. Now that piece of paper is not it's negotiable by definition, but we've not been trained in it. So the Safeway store just looks at that like, I don't know what this is. If we were in the Middle Ages, they would know what that was. We've been trained out of it, but we're still participating in it, and they're reaping all the benefits. So what we're teaching is to do this to your benefit. So now you keep your piece of paper, so it's decentralized. I can't control what you have, like he can't control what I have in my pocket. The minute I give it to him, like we do at banks, we stick all our negotiable instruments in the bank. When you negotiate, it's literally by delivery, by actually giving it to them. So they have it. They actually own it. It's deposed of.
So Cal, just before we go, can you give us your website again? Just because people are asking.
Yeah, so inpowermovement.org.
Gotcha.
In power. IN powermovement.org.
That was me.
And
There's so much information in there.
There's a lot of information in there, a lot of videos. You'll have aha moments in there.
Is that where you register it online there? If you decide you wanna?
Yep.
Okay, it's all there.
There's a button you gotta click. I'm not techie, but
Yeah.
So for the kids, if they do not have socials, like I know there's people in there that have kids, my kids do not have socials. How does it work to be able for them to work in commerce? So of course, most of our kids have birth certificates, but if the ones who don't have socials or to stay out of that system, how do you work in that system?
That's one of those questions. It depends on the boss you're going to, what company you're with. There's too many variables on those kind of
But
questions.
do you have to have a social to work in the country?
No. If you can work under the table, but you can't work everywhere like that. You're not going to get a job at Royal Bank or Canada Safeway or, it's not going to happen. So that's the long and short of it. I worked as a subcontractor, and actually I even worked for Ralph. And so he would give me checks, but there was no, or cash, but there was no,
Bill of exchange.
they were, but there was no taxation involved. Like I was on my own to deal with my own stuff.
No receipts.
So one more question from the lady there.
We got one important, it's important.
Well, her first, please.
I was thinking of organizations like the WHO that are gonna make our lives really miserable with the treaties and international health organization regulations. Now, I don't know if there's any way that we can fight them through legislation such as what you're talking, treason.
We can through bills of exchange because it's commerce and it's running above all these things. They all have bank accounts, they all have to deal with money. When their personal money is on the table, they're like, oh, yeah, the thing I was saying before,
It became.
yeah.
Because they worship money.
It's private capacity.
Right.
Maybe it's something we can consider with you down the road. I know you're working on 4 right now, they're also very important, but the WHO is going to be a huge.
Well, the who's part of it, so,
Yeah.
so they're, you can send the vaccine one to them, I would even say send the 5G one to them.
So just the actions you're doing now might have a big repercussion to them.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah. And we're in like 19 countries. We have people in Denmark. We have people in Belgium who we're sending to the European Parliament. That's their country. They're all there.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, this is, and I'll give you just some numbers. Because generally our average daily fee for all our members right now is $20,000 a day. And we just crossed $1 billion with about 200 people, maybe 300 now. But I'll just jump to, if we had 1 million people at $20,000 a day times 4 respondents, in 1 year we create $10 trillion. We are now competing with the United States of America. They cannot ignore this. It's an elephant that just comes in and moves all the chairs. You can't deal with it. And once people catch on, because of the way we're doing it, it will drive it even, it will take off. We're at this, it's going to be like this. And they can't, it will literally overwhelm them. Babylon will fall, and Revelation 18 says, where did all the wealth go? So much wealth was lost in 1 hour. One day, it's like, and all the wealth is given back to the people. They've stolen from our great grandparents. Okay, there was one more important one back there, and then we'll call it.
Okay, so a bill of exchange, when it's created, it has to be signed by 2 people and then it becomes a contract, or just by the one person?
One signature.
So is that an invoice? Is it the same as an invoice?
No, it's a bill of exchange.
Okay, so
But
a
it
bill of
looks-
exchange, if I create it, can I just hand that to my bank and say my mortgage is paid?
Banks, no.
If depending on who the debtor is on there, yes, like you can't just make up something, but a promissory note you can. Because that's
But then I still owe, right?
Technically, no. The mortgage you got, they lent you because you already signed the promissory note. That was the first piece when you went to get your mortgage, you weren't paying attention. Sign this promissory note, put it behind his back. Our bank account just went up by $200,000 if your mortgage was $200,000. Just that instant. And then, okay, next keep document. Oh, you want to borrow $200,000? Oh, well, that was lucky. I just got $200,000 like 5 seconds ago. Yeah, we'll lend it to you. You already paid it. Read the affidavit of Walker Todd. It will blow your mind.
Yeah.
We've been living in a massive scam, people, and like you said, it's brilliant.
It's just like, yeah.
So then we could give a promissory note to our bank and say,
No, please don't do that. You can try, but you have to understand what it is, because they're going to tell you can't do that, and then what's your answer? Yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. That's not going to work. You have to know why and challenge them and get them to answer questions that they can't answer.
An invoice is not the same as a bill?
It looks like a bill. They taught us to think in terms of invoice, that you're collecting fiat dollars, but the bill itself is money in their ancient system. And they weren't really collecting these things. They were writing notes to each other, bills of exchange to each other among the merchants and going, yeah, I'll pay you in 60 days. But nobody was paying, and then they were just passing them out to us people, and they all thought it's all, yeah, it's all good. That's that rich guy out there. It's got his name on there. Yeah, that's good. I'll pass it. We started passing these things around, and we're still doing it. These have no value whatsoever. Our own bills of exchange, our own value, and then give it a value. Yeah, gold. Here's the thing about gold or any precious metal. If you took all the precious, like the earth is a certain size, so if the whole thing was gold, and you divvied all the gold up amongst every man, woman, and child, so we're all equal, this is hypothetical, the very next day when the baby is born, you've got a problem.
You got it, Brian.
Because where's that child? And then the next day, another baby's born. Oh, we don't have gold for that. There is no more gold. Anything finite is not going to work in this commercial system. It has to be fiat. Fiat is not bad in and of itself. It's who's in control of it. It worked really well as tally sticks, and it worked really well in the colonial script. When the colonies were first put in where the United States is, it worked really well. Everybody was prospering, and England went. And that's Revolutionary War. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Cal. Thank you so much. That's a wrap. I'm not sure. I was doing goofy stuff on this end, you guys, but I videoed. Hold on. I had two going. So I'm gonna post the actual video out as well. I think it had better sound. Right on, Brian. Appreciate that. You guys have a good night. Start looking into this feller. Out of all the people doing shit out there that I've seen so far, this is the only one I'm seeing actually making ground here. So. All right, peace out. Ciao.